Karen Burniston. I am the designer of the Pop-It-Ups line of interactive card dies for Elizabeth Craft Designs. And once a month I will be providing you a video tutorial in conjunction with my monthly designer challenges. Okay, what are designer challenges? I have an amazing designer challenge team. These women live all over the world. There's 4 different countries, 5 different states, and they have an amazing array of styles. And once a month I will challenge them to use my dies in a specific way. Okay, for February, the challenge was to use the pivot card dies. So there's 3 different styles of pivot card. There's the butterfly, the heart, and the Katie label. And they could choose any of those dies and make a card. Some of them made more than one. So where do you find all this wonderful inspiration? If you are watching this video on YouTube and you need to get over to the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog, you can check right here in the About section, just right below this video, and you'll find a link directly to that blog. Okay. Monthly designer challenge means a challenge for me too, because I will also follow my own challenge, and you will always see a new card design from me and a new video tutorial for that card. And I do like to kind of take my challenge a little further and try and think of some kind of fun new way to use the dies. So I will try and do that on Designer Challenge Day every month. And for this month, I challenged myself to use the Katie label pivot card and to be able to make it taller to where you could use it, you know, for some of your taller stamped images, photographs, things like that. Sometimes you just want something a little bit bigger than the way the die was designed. So I'm going to teach you that cool technique. That's what this video will cover. I'm going to use the Katie label pivot card for this project. Now, here is how the die comes when you get it out of the packaging, and you will want to take a pair of die snips and snip out all your decorator dies. So those are connected on the inside of the pop-up with all those little tiny connection threads. And then once you have them all clipped out, then what you're going to end up with is several little decorator dies in addition to your pop-up die. Now, what I've also got on the board here is a couple other dies I'm going to use as decorator dies. Now, a cool thing about this technique is being able to do a little bit larger card than you would normally be able to use in a standard die cutting machine like a Big Shot. I'm using a 5x7 card, so I've scored that at 5 inches. I started with a 7-inch by 10-inch piece of patterned paper, and I just made a score line in the middle. So I made my card's center fold to be able to do my pivot card, but now I want to put another fold in it. I want to put a long fold. So I'm going to go down 3 inches from the top, and I'm going to score all the way across the card, and then I'll just go ahead and fold that to the back. Now, when you're doing a doubling technique like this, you actually have 2 directions you have to line it up in, because the first thing you need to do is just like normal, you need to make sure that the center little nubs, the alignment nubs on the Katie label pivot card are right over the fold, the center fold of the card. And then you've got a second bit of lining up to do, because I want to make sure that my little point scallop right there is right on the edge of my fold on, on both sides. Then from there, it's just a matter of rolling it through like normal and folding it like normal. So when that comes out, I can get the die out of there. What's going to happen is right where that upper fold is, it's basically going to mirror image everything that was cut into the card. So that's how it basically doubles. It makes it twice as high. And now all I'm going to do is unfold that card, and you will see what has happened. The Katie label itself is now twice as high as it usually is, but folding it's the same way. You fold the card in one direction, the pivots go the other way, and you give everything a good squish. So as far as folding a double high Katie label pivot card, it folds exactly the same. You just have a little bit more real estate now for decorating. Now I'm going to walk you through some of my specific decorations. I've used the largest decorator fancy label from the Accordion Fancy Label die, and I've die cut a piece of blue cardstock where I had already applied a piece of Elizabeth Craft Designs double-sided adhesive. So now I'm going to peel that up and make it sticky. Now I keep some of those liner sheets that come off the double-sided adhesive sheets because they can make great masks for cool techniques like this. So what I did is I just folded it in half and freehand cut a little heart out of the middle of a piece of basically backing paper from the double-sided adhesive. And that way I can place it down over the adhesive to use it as a guide for when I'm placing my little Shimmer Sheets hearts. And that little heart came off of the Oval Accordion album. Now when I get to the end, I'm probably going to have to overlap a little heart a little bit, and that's no big deal. I'm going to use my Elizabeth Craft Designs tweezers to pick up one of those hearts and move it. And now I've got my perfect little heart-shaped mosaic. Elizabeth Craft Designs glitters are fantastic. They are microfine. All you have to do is just kind of polish them into the adhesive. I'm using the Cool Diamond for this one. And then what's really cool about them is that you can actually color over the top of them with alcohol markers. And so I've put my positive space of my liner sheet over to kind of protect my heart. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of a dark kind of Copic marker around the glitter and then just kind of feather it out a little bit with a Copic blending pen. And then one last little bit is I'm going to use some of the glitter lines. These are peel-off stickers from Elizabeth Craft Designs. And I'm just going to go around and kind of snip them to where I can just line my heart completely with those little glitter lines. Just adds just a little bit of sparkle and definition to my piece. So I'll use that mosaic heart on page 1. And then for page 2, I decided I'm going to put my little Love Always Wins, Love You greeting. And the way I did this is I started with the Love Always Wins stamp. So this is an Allie Edwards stamp from Technique Tuesday. And I'm using Stampin' Up's Stampin' Right markers. They're kind of my favorite for this technique. They stay nice and wet long enough for you to be able to do, several colors on a stamp. In this case, I'm just using 2 different colors of blue and coloring the sections that I want in each color. And then I just huff on it a little bit with a little breath, and then I just press down over my cardstock, and then I'll get that fun little 2-tone greeting. Now remember, I'm using the fancy accordion album for the decorator dies, and I can also use the album page itself as a decorator die. So what I'm doing here is I'm nesting in that largest decorator die into the accordion album page itself, and I'm going to cut both of those at the same time. And it doesn't really matter that my paper was smaller. All I care about is that it was big enough for the label portion of the accordion album page. So there's my little decorator piece that has the greeting, and then now what I'm going to do is pop out the confetti and get that other piece out. And all I have to do is take my scissors now and isolate out the little label, and it becomes basically a little decorator frame to go around the one that I had stamped. Now since I've got 2 pieces there, I'm going to be able to use that outer frame to hold in place this little Love You greeting, which I stamped on a transparency using StazOn ink, and then that little outer frame is where I can kind of hide the adhesive to hold that Love You on. And that'll just go right there on page 2. Okay, so those embellishments covered the fold that went through the front of my labels. I used washi tape on the back of my labels to cover that fold line, and now I've just got those little outer sections of the card that need covering. So I'm going to use the Agatha edges on blue cardstock and cut myself some little decorator pieces to kind of cover up that fold, and then I'm just going to extend the coverage by using little strips of pattern paper on both the front of the card and the inside of the card and the back of the card. Okay, front of the card, I just added some more strips of the same shutter pattern paper and then just this little Love You, Love You, Love You stamp. So I'll just trim the edges to fit. And I also needed a space for a personal greeting, so I went back to the pieces that come with the Katie Label Pivot card and made this little label. And then one thing I did is I used the little heart, the same die that I used for all those little shimmer sheet hearts, to cut a hole in the label and then cut another shimmer sheet heart. And then I can just use some of that scraps of blue adhesive cardstock behind there to hold it in place until I can glue it into my card. Now this is just an A7 card, so a standard 5x7 envelope is all I need to mail it, and you can see how flat it is. It'll fit nicely in that envelope. I decorated that envelope with the last little bit of pattern paper and a couple more of the stamps, and then you can see how nicely that finished card will slide in, and I can mail that for a single stamp. So if you want to give this card or technique a whirl and you want to know about the products that I used, you can certainly follow the link in the About section over to the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog to the post for this month's challenge. You'll also find fantastic inspiration from the Designer Challenge team, and you'll see some photographs of this little alternate card that I made using the exact same technique. I even used the exact same stamp set. I sure would love it if you would subscribe to me on YouTube and like my Facebook page. And you can always find more pop-up inspiration on my blog, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching. Hey, I thought you might actually like to meet Katie. This is Kate. Can you look at the camera, Katie?